Gregg is on the line with us here this morning. Awstin is a licensed clinical social worker and CEO of Connections Wellness Group, providing affordable family and youth mental health counseling services. And we want to talk with him this morning because we've been talking about the economy all morning long and the struggles that folks are having with it. And that comes from the corporate end as well. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Awstin, companies are struggling out there. They're looking for people, and in order to get them, they're going to have to keep them happy, aren't they?
Indeed so. Employee happiness is one of the largest drivers to business success these days.
And business failure, unfortunately, as well. So let's talk about what makes employees happy. And it used to be we said we just pay them more money. You pay them more money, they'll be happy. Maybe not the case, huh?
Yeah, maybe not so. While that certainly would remain a truth, I think a lot of our candidates looking for jobs are advocating for more perks, more benefits, more flexibility from where they work, and a little creativity to their schedules.
Yeah, one of the interesting things, we got this survey this morning that said that women need downtime on weekends even more than men. But that's what people are looking for a lot of the time is they're looking for space on their schedules. And maybe that involves a 4-day work week. Maybe that involves some other sort of adjustment to their schedule that gets them a little extra time.
Yeah, our rest and rejuvenation when we come to work whole and we have that big body battery going for us, we're able to do meaningful work in a quality way. And I think some of these studies are beginning to suggest the efficacy of that.
Yeah. So let's talk about Fridays off. 4-day work weeks, working 4/10s and having Friday off, or even come to some other kind of arrangement with your company that's going to get you that Friday off, because that really seems to be something that folks are looking for. Give me Friday off.
Absolutely. And from a psychological perspective, when people are struggling with anxiety, depression, whatever mental health piece it is, the number one recommendation we give them is have something in your schedule you look forward to. Now, you switch that and sort of in a parallel, you have your employees who are working all week long. What if they had something to look forward to every single week? Could that increase productivity? And a lot of these studies are saying, yes, it does.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is a Monday off doesn't really compute in the same way, does it?
You know, it certainly does. And I wondered if it would have some benefits there, but there's something about that Friday and the allure of a 3-day work week.
Yeah, absolutely is. Well, the interesting thing to me about what you do is you deal with people and what it is that is going to help them become more productive, and the mental approach to their work lives is becoming more and more important. This study I was telling you about said that women need downtime on weekends even more than men because they tend to juggle more things through the week and they don't have as much downtime in general. So finding more of it is really important, and kicking back on the weekend is essential to them.
I agree. And the idea that from the multitasking, it takes a lot of energy and effort. And sometimes what we find is we multitask so much, we'll get into the weekend and we'll have the opportunity to relax, but we still got so many balls in the air that although we might be still, we're not necessarily getting the relaxation to rejuvenate us.
Now, some companies, such as businesses such as ours, where you have a 5-day show, you're not taking one of those days off. So it's kind of hard to get that Friday off for this particular business. But for other businesses that might be able to work it into their schedule, what are some of the barriers that the companies are running into or are citing as reasons why they shouldn't do it?
You know, you're right. Some segments of our businesses, they may not be able to easily do this. But I also see one of the transition elements is instead of thinking about a salaried employee through the basis of hours, just 40 hours or a little bit more for some cases, thinking about it in terms of productivity. What do I want the outcome of this employment relationship to be? And sometimes that's a lot more challenging question to answer. And as we begin thinking through that, that's one of the barriers, going from what we've always known as a salary employee to what could be defined as that productive blend. Yeah,
and that's interesting because we tend to think, or historically have thought in business circles, that 5 days a week means that's 5 days of working, and we're more interested in the fact that we're working than in the productivity that is happening during that time at work.
You're absolutely right. And I think if we're being honest, a lot of these studies show that although we may be physically present at work for 40 hours, our actual productive engagement is a lot less than 40 hours.
All right, so that being one of the things that's out there, the 5-day or the 4-day work week and the possibility of that, what are some other ways that companies can make their employees happier at work?
One of the ways, a few examples of how we do or what we've seen is we see, paid leave for both fathers and mothers whenever they have a new child. We have implemented minimums on PTO, like you must take at least some PTO. A lot of people will just work hard and push through. And, other smaller things that we do is like pet insurance. Our employee base said that they cared a lot about their pets, and so we have insured their pets to ensure that they're healthy. It's all these little small things that begin stacking on top of each other that create this reality that people get to say, I enjoy going to work.
Let's bring the pandemic into this, because the pandemic put a lot more people doing their work from home. And then it's been kind of a rough transition to get back into the office once things open back up again. That has to play a role in all this, doesn't it?
I think so. It's probably the first chapter when we look at this in hindsight. When people are working from home but still having the same productive output, it began to beg the question of what is the best working environment, what are these dynamics, and what is it that I expect out of an employee that I hire?
Did companies begin to realize that partway through and say, you know what, here's an opportunity not only for the workers I have to work from home and be just as productive, but also for me to expand the whole market and get workers from all over the United States for my company here in wherever that town might be. Here we are in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and we can get employees from Wyoming or from Wisconsin or some state that doesn't begin with the letter W.
You hit the nail on the head right there. If we have dynamics where we set expectations of, hey, here is what the productive lens of your position looks like, you're no longer geographically bound by who can drive to the office. You're more bound by who can log on to the internet, which is effectively a whole lot of Americans.
Yeah, that being the case, and then that gives those companies an opportunity to attract better talent too, doesn't it?
It does. Better talent, and frankly, for those looking to expand geographically, and you already have footholds of employee bases in other states, it gives you healthy momentum in that way too.
All right. So for those employees who say, okay, I'm working that 4-day week, I feel better about it, I'm happier as an employee, is there any danger to them just getting a little bit too happy and a little bit too relaxed and not being as productive as they should be?
And I think that's where our onus could come into. And you're right. We don't want the momentum or the pendulum to swing too far. But if we have objective ways to meaningfully measure that productivity, we could always objectively assess it. And whenever we have that ability to have that balance and we have that precision, I think we safeguard this idea of perhaps that 32-hour work week becomes 28, becomes 24, because they're still going to have to work to earn that income based on the principles that we interviewed them for.
Your Connections Wellness Group provides affordable family and youth mental health counseling services. From an employment standpoint, how does that work? What do you do?
So from an employment standpoint, what we have seen in our helping profession is when we take care of our employees, they're in a better place to take care of our patients. Whenever they're in that better place, our outcome measures are better. Our overall outcomes to our community are better. More people talk about what works for them. Our employees who are happy call their friends and say, hey, I'm happy at my work. So now we have patients that are singing our praises because our employees are engaged, and our employees recruiting other employees that say, hey, this is a wonderful place to work. And whenever I think about that in a business perspective, that is the hallmarks of a growing, successful business.
You know, that's interesting you say that, because recruitment has become a bigger and bigger thing, isn't it? If you get your own employees out on the recruiting trail, then you're going to strengthen your company even further.
There's a big contrast between applying blindly online versus a trusted friend calling and saying, hey, this is a really great place to work. You get the candidates that you want or the candidates that are recommended, and it does tremendous things.
He's Awstin Gregg. Awstin, where are we going to learn more about you?
I'm the CEO of Connections Wellness Group. We're a Texas-based company that does outpatient mental health.
Very good. Very good. Thanks so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, sir.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1161 FM.